Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the City Chatter Podcast. I'm John Bernstrom, Public Information Officer for the City of Grand Forks, and this week we bring back City Council President Dana Sande. Dana, thank you for joining us.
Always good to be with you, John.
And you came back, so I appreciate that.
You bet. Happy to be here.
So we are coming off of a committee of the whole meeting last night. That
marathon meeting.
Frankly, we both just got home.
Yep.
But a lot of things were covered. So Dana, I'm going to get right into it. Probably one of the big presentations was that development agreement. I'm calling it a potential development agreement. You still have to vote on it to accept it for Epitome Energy. That's the soybean crushing plant that looks like it's looking to go north of the landfill. That development agreement, when you went home, did you read through the 50-page document or whatever it was? There's lots of stuff in there, and frankly, as council members, lots of work to do in the next week.
Yeah, well, I'd read through it before going into the meeting. So, yeah, there are lots of parts to that. Not only are we working on the agreement to make sure that we cover our risk, as well as put them in a position where they can be successful. We're also looking at being a fiduciary for them for some tax-free municipal bonds, not GO bonds, not government obligation bonds. Right. They're bonds that they're responsible for, but we can help them issue them as a municipality because of the bonds are specifically related to environmental. Because they're going to be recapturing and creating feed out of the waste, they're eligible for some tax-free resources, money tax-free that they can use to buy the equipment to do that. So it's good for them. It's good for our community. It helps them generate additional revenue on top of what they're going to be doing with the soybean crushing. And frankly, we did have a long discussion about sustainability. I know Mr. Veen all of a sudden is interested in sustainability, and so he brought it up, and I think Mr. Weber said it quite well, that soybeans and soybean crushing, as opposed to ethanol and others, are so much more environmentally friendly. So I think it's going to be a good project. Lots of good paying jobs in our community, and another value-added ag opportunity to help provide revenue for our local farmers. I think it's a win-win-win.
Even though all those things were covered yesterday, there's still lots of hoops to go through, right? There's still infrastructure that needs to get in the ground. Based on what I saw yesterday, it doesn't...
Yeah, millions of dollars of infrastructure. Yes. We think that the state, I know the state and the Ag Commissioner and others are interested in value-added ag. They want to help. Department of Transportation wants to help with these sorts of projects. So we're confident that we're going to get a significant cost share. We, of course, are going to ask for the maximum cost share in hopes that it saves Epitome, helps save the city some money, and potentially the future special assessments for the landowners that are in that area that will ultimately also benefit from the infrastructure, the roads, water, et cetera, that are going to be going in there.
And I think it was interesting, Mr. Phelan, part of the presentation where he was talking about some of the trunk infrastructure, the water, the sewer, building it not just for this one project, but let's, for better term, develop that area. So when the next one comes to town, whatever that is, that's all right, whatever that is, they have something to tap into.
Yeah, I mean, think of that, a 16-inch force main water. That's a massive amount of water that's moving through that area, and by tapping it in over off of 27th by where we're going to be feeding the North 81 folks who were recently annexed.
Yep.
There is a massive amount of water and redundancy because the water can flow from both directions. So I think it definitely will set us up for future opportunities for, again, value-added ag.
And I will say this last thing on it. Who knows if we could have supplied that much water without our new water treatment plant? I don't know if we'd been able to do it.
Oh, no, we didn't. We wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, where our new water treatment plant more than doubled our capabilities. So
yeah.
Yeah, and we did build for the future. So this is why we have such a great water treatment plant.
No, perfect. Also, at yesterday's meeting, there was some
but also keep in mind that a lot of they're going to be using our treated wastewater as well.
Yes.
Which is why we are making significant investments into our wastewater treatment plant, going to be significantly increasing its capacity. And the wastewater treatment plant's a little over 20 years old. It's a generational facility, and therefore each generation should pay for some of the cost of it, which is why we go out, we bond for it, we pay for it every 20 years or so.
That bond goes away.
The bond goes away. We do another one, make another addition, do some fixing, those sorts of things to keep it as good as it can be.
Is some of those city services that are provided that you don't notice they're provided until they're not provided.
Exactly, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Also yesterday, the old townhouse hotel site in downtown Grand Forks is now owned by Epic, and they're developing. There's those 2 towers that are up. There's going to be a public square space in there. It sounds like they're going to put some ice in there and everything. There was already a development agreement in place with them as far as getting that off the ground and getting moving, little tweaks to it. But it's looking like that one's getting closer. I saw them mention yesterday potentially that square open by the end of summer. Potentially.
Yeah, I think probably fall.
Fall, sure.
Yeah,
yep.
I don't know how they're going to get it done that fast, but maybe, knock on wood, hope that they can get their ducks in a row. Of course, there were lots of questions about it. The community square, they want to shrink the footprint a little bit. They're going to change some of the amenities. They're talking about putting in permanent
like a cooling system.
Ice creation system, a cooling system, permanent audio, permanent lighting, those sorts of things. They wanted to change the development agreement. They wanted to change the timing of when the city put money in. Instead of waiting till the end, they wanted the additional $1.015 million earlier.
Right, which was in the original development agreement. It's a timing thing.
They were talking about the cost of money. The interest rates are way out. They're hoping to reduce their financing costs. So if we're going to put the money in anyway, can we put the money in today? Of course, we had lots of questions. Brett Weber and I met with the mayor, met with Todd. We talked about this round and round and round and round. And frankly, I wasn't really excited about changing, changing the development agreement. But their bank was willing to give us first position mortgage on each of the buildings that are already built. And so there's no lose for us.
No.
If something happens where we need our money back, if they don't have it, we can sell their building and we just take our money off the top.
And we're first in line to get it.
First in line to get it, right. So and after that, it became a no-brainer. And if it helps them and gets it done a little bit faster, I think that's great.
And as a person who works downtown, I'm downtown every day. Just the amount of foot traffic has increased, the amount of, in a positive way.
Yeah, I'm sure it has.
Just
we're having the Hugo's downtown and just more single-family residents and apartments. I think it's certainly going to, our downtown is going to be fundamentally changed over the course of 5 years ago to 5 years from now.
Yep. My wife and I this past summer on a random Tuesday, kids stay home, mom and dad are going to go out and hang out a little bit. And we were downtown on a random Tuesday, and we couldn't get into there was a wait to get into a couple of restaurants, and we ended up sitting outside somewhere.
Awesome.
And my wife and I, we looked at each other like, it's Tuesday.
Yeah,
what's
awesome.
going on? So it was kind of fun.
Yeah. And even after the snowmobilers aren't able to go down there, it's still that busy. It's amazing.
Oh, Dana.
Right? Sorry.
He's right there.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Fun things, right? Okay, so we spend lots of times at city council meetings and we're talking infrastructure and we're talking maybe it's taxes or we're talking the non-glamorous city stuff. There was a fun thing yesterday, indoor turf and aquatic center, whatever that looks like, still working on that. But you guys, the change in ordinance because of the extension of the 0.75% sales tax.
Purchasing the Danks land?
Purchasing land, things are moving on that.
Yeah, again, I like when I talked about, excuse me.
It's cold in winter, yeah.
The 2050 transportation plan, I talked about how the city of Grand Forks has taken so many strides forward in the last 5 years, from voting to support a new Valley Middle School to voting to support this sort of development within our community. Not only that, but for me, the sales tax, extending the sales tax, although we are going to get the benefit of being able to build some new facilities for young people.
Right.
For me, the best thing this does is it takes care of the Allis Center.
Yep.
I've been fighting, for almost 14 years now, saying that we have got to financially manage the Allis Center differently, because long term, we have money for capital improvements, but only so much. And once the sales tax would have sunset, the money would have been gone, or in a few years. And so ultimately, I kept telling people, we need to if we're not going to deal with the Allis Center, we should let UND know, because they need to be planning to build $1 billion or a $2 billion indoor football stadium, right? Which of course would never happen.
Right.
So I think my top priority, and I recognize that the mayor and others have been talking about turf and aquatics. My number one priority is making sure that we're setting enough of that sales tax, we're setting enough of it aside so that we can properly manage and maintain the Allis Center. Everything else is gravy. And so I think that it's great that people are getting excited about it. Frankly, I'm pretty excited about it. I think, from Mayor Brown for 20 years was talking about destination corridor. Well, he was just 20 years ahead of his time.
Yeah, just a little early.
Right.
Yep.
And so I think this will, I'm hoping we see a new coffee shop over there. Who knows? Ultimately, I know with the university tearing down Hislop, the school district having 2 high school pools that aren't functioning.
Right.
Knowing that there are young people every year, it is a safety issue. When people tell me that, I kind of blow it off, but it is a safety issue. Yep. Kids need to learn how to swim.
Yep. Life skill.
Yeah. So that's important. And, having the ability to have practice for softball, for example, or some of those sports that are early spring sports or late fall sports, give them the ability to be inside. Soccer, I think it's great. And I certainly know, talking to some of my friends at the Park District, that there is a really big need. They're telling me that. I believe them. I don't know. I don't have kids that age anymore. So, but I'm sure it's probably true.
Well, and I will say this: I had a son who played like Cal Ripken youth baseball for a few years, and practices start in March. And depending on the weather, they practiced inside Gambucci Arena for a month. Yeah, there's only so many games of catch in a batting cage you can do.
But as what we saw last night, there is no baseball, softball set up inside that facility.
But just the turf alone.
Yeah, well, sure, but they should, in my opinion, if we're going through the exercise, round out the one side and make a ball field too.
I see what you're getting at. Yeah. Like build it till you actually play a game in there.
So I'm not an architect, but I think I would look at what are the actual things that we're trying to accomplish and then try to figure that out. And if it means that we can't have all of the nicest things in the world, but make sure we're covering all the bases, I'd rather cover all the basics. Build it bigger and not have it made of marble. But that's just me.
Well, and along those lines, that may still be up for discussion, right? Part of what you guys heard yesterday was just, hey, let's get in line to get an engineer in line, put out a RFP, RFQ for an engineer to help design this thing.
Sure.
And then understand we've got this much money coming in, so what that costs. All the things you mentioned, I think, could potentially still be on the table.
I think they are. I think it depends on who's going to be talking to the architects and helping them point themselves in a direction, right?
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a phone call from an architect, so.
I will say this, because I've heard this brought up, and I don't know the answer to this. Do you think it's one engineer or two? Pools and turf are two different things.
Oh, it should be two. It should be two. It should be two. I think they should be separate architects for the swimming facility and the turf facility, separate engineers. That's what I think.
It's apples and oranges a little bit.
Well, again, I think I think people have a tendency to specialize in certain things. I don't think folks that specialize in creating a turf facility know a whole lot about building a swimming pool.
Good point. Or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
Right.
I mean, if you're an architect that are used to building swimming pools, you're building swimming pools. And
Yep.
so I think we should find local folks that do what they do best and have them do it to the best of their ability.
Sure. No, that's right on. All right, you mentioned just as the city has grown in the past 5 years and the changes that have gone on, frankly, the impacts that has had to the change of traffic. When I first moved to Grand Forks, 42nd Street was a 2-lane road that turned into gravel at 17th, right? And now it's a major north-south thoroughfare. The impacts of that is you guys are taking a look at a 2050 streets and highway plan. Bridges, all things that are in it. You've had your preliminary votes. That's different than what East Grand Forks is, and by you I mean City Council. Different than what East Grand Forks Planning and Zoning came at a different angle. You're going to hear it again on Monday. What do you expect to happen or expect to hear at City Council on Monday regarding the street and highway plan?
Interesting. That's a good way to frame this question. I expect that there will be a fair amount of folks from the 24th to 32nd Avenue neighborhood show up, speaking in support of removing the concept of the intercity bridge. Perhaps someone from East Grand Forks will show up, but they're not allowed to speak anymore.
Sure, yeah.
I expect that that the MPO will tell us that that they can't do it. I will expect them to say that if we vote this way, it'll be fire and brimstone. That the federal government is going to cut off all our money. That we're never going to get another road built in our town.
Sure.
That's my expectation.
Right.
I'm expecting that we will hear all the terrible things that will happen if we decide the way we decide. I also expect that I will ask the question, well, why didn't you ask us first? 9 months ago or a year ago when you started the plan. You've had 5 years. You've had 5 years. And both the city council split 5-4 5 years ago, not to remove the bridge, but planning and zoning was 8-1 to remove the bridge.
Yes, that was 5 years ago.
5 years ago. And so were they not expecting? You're not expecting that this question's going to come up? And if you were expecting the question's going to come up, why didn't you come and ask us first? And if you weren't expecting it, well, you're not paying any attention. So I don't know. I expect that I'm going to make the motion and it's going to be upheld, and we're going to vote 4-3 to remove the intercity bridge from the 2050 land use plan. I believe that we should concentrate on getting the Merrifield Bridge built. I believe that we give the counties the out by having 2 bridges that are in the county. We give them both an out because they say they don't have the money for 2 bridges. We squabble. They don't have to do anything.
Sure.
In my opinion, we should tell them, we want this bridge right here. You need to work with us. You need to work with the legislature to get that bridge built.
Right. Both sides of the river.
Both sides of the river. And then when that bridge is built 5 years from now or 9 years from now, if the cities and the MPO actually measure the traffic and see what happens, and they continue to determine that or believe that we would need some sort of intercity bridge, then they can put it back in the plan.
Mm-hmm.
It can go in the plan in 2033 or 2043.
Right. Because you see this every 5 years.
Or 2048. Yeah. You see it every 5 years. So I think what I also will say is I think it's very bizarre that that the MPO makes the final decision on our land use plan when there are people on that committee that aren't elected officials. So you have unelected people setting ordinance setting policy for the city. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not even sure that's legal.
Well, I'm gonna ask you this, and this is bad on me. I heard this. So I thought the MPO was made of Grand Forks City Council and East Grand Forks City Council members.
Yep.
Is there
2 Grand Forks City Council, 2 East Grand Forks City Council?
correct?
1 Polk County Commissioner, 1 Grand Forks County Commissioner, and 1 each representative from the Planning and Zoning Commissions from Grand Forks
each.
and East Grand Forks, neither of whom are elected officials.
That's where you get. Okay. I lost the planning and
Yep.
zoning side of
And
that.
so I don't understand how, I'm not sure it's legal that you can have non-elected people making policy for your community. Not only that, but we're 7/8 of our community, and East Grand Forks is 1/8. Why is it that 1/8 of the population of our area can make the decision of how our long-range transportation plan should go? Whenever the MPO was set up, I believe it wasn't put together logically. Grand Forks should have more members on the MPO. We should ultimately have the final say. Again, that's my opinion.
Sure. You just mentioned something, and I'm curious in your point of view. Merrifield Bridge, we're focusing on that. You just mentioned 5 years, 9 years. Do you feel that if we solely focus on that bridge, right, as the new bridge in the plan,
Yep.
it has a better chance of getting done?
No question it has a better chance of getting done. We're going to every time the North Dakota State Legislature with our laundry list
Yep.
of what we need, we go to North Dakota Transportation. Here's the laundry list. We want 2 bridges within 4 miles of them crossing the Red River, and they laugh, and then neither of them gets any attention.
Sure.
Right? And over and over and over again, we've been doing this song and dance for years, 30 years, 40 years. People have been talking about the Merrifield Bridge forever. So having a concerted effort saying, and all speaking together, Grand Forks, East Grand Forks, Polk County, Grand Forks County, united message. We need a bridge at Merrifield Road. We need to be able to route traffic.
Right. Becomes a truck route.
Truck route. It becomes a route for the farmers.
Yeah, make it wide to get tractors through
Yeah,
there.
I mean,
Yep.
you name it. So I do believe that with that, and then of course all bridges, that bridge becomes a much higher priority for our community, and I would believe that it would get done. As it sits today, I don't think either of them will ever get done. There is no pathway for getting them done.
Sure. It's you've been alive in Grand Forks for how long? Bridges have been the discussion at that point. What your mother was on council probably talking about bridges.
51 years, yeah. Again,
Yep.
I told the story. I was probably 8 when my grandfather, I was sitting in his backyard, and my grandfather told me, they might put a bridge over there one day. I mean, he pointed across the street and to the empty fields, and there might be a bridge there. Wow, why didn't they do it? That was 45 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we are.
That's interesting. My wife and I have that conversation, and because I live close to 32nd, and my wife goes, what happens if a bridge gets close? And I'm like, until it comes off not so much off the paper of removed from a plan, until there's movement somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't see it, but it could snap of a finger go. Not at 30, but just bridge in general.
Yeah.
Bridge in general.
Again, in my opinion, the folks in East Grand Forks shouldn't be able to dictate us having to ruin one of our neighborhoods for their convenience.
For convenience. Yep. No, I get you there.
Doesn't fly with me.
All right, that's enough city council. Just so everyone knows, that was pretty much all of the meeting yesterday. We did it 3.5 hours. We did that in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
good job.
Yeah, actually, there were a lot of other things that we did too. Budget amendments. We approved some purchases for the police department and public works. Lots of good stuff.
Well, and some of the non-sexy stuff, right? There is wastewater treatment plant stuff on there. There was a boiler for the Allis Center. Things that need to happen. You notice if it's not there.
Yeah, we appointed someone to the housing authority. Lots of good things.
You even came up with the voting precincts for 2024.
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Only 4 places to vote, but they're going to try to find more.
It'll be. Along those lines, I'm curious on that. Have we ever asked and said,
We
hey,
have asked.
we have asked before?
Yeah, I mean, it's a consistent message from the county these days that it's hard for them to find people to do the jobs. And again, when you and I were growing up, you voted in the elementary schools.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the schools have stepped back.
And the churches and no, everybody was okay with that. Well, now the school district is not excited about random people wandering in and out of their buildings. And I agree with them.
Right.
I wouldn't want that either. And
churches are in the same boat.
yeah, right. So you know, and in my opinion, being able to get from here to there is much different today than it was 50 years ago.
Yes.
And so we offer free public transportation. As far as I'm concerned, everyone should be able to vote at the Allis Center. If you can't get to the Allis Center, call the city. I'm sure somebody's happy to pick you up and give you a ride.
Well, and that's one thing. Even during this next November, don't both political parties do that?
Yeah, well,
hey, you need a ride? We'll give you a ride.
Yeah, of course they will.
They can't technically tell you how to vote, but we can get you to vote.
Right.
We can get you to vote. Okay, so that's the business. You know, my previous life was a sportscaster, so I like leaning in on sports.
Okay.
This past weekend, one of the biggest college football rivalries met for the 124th time. Have you ever watched the Army-Navy game?
I haven't, but have you ever watched Brad Gushue, the curling icon out of Canada, win the Olympics or the Pan-Can title, which he did recently?
I
You
haven't.
probably haven't. Yeah.
I haven't,
You'll
but I
have
will
to look
say
into Brad Gushue.
when the World Championships are here in Grand Forks, that was
yeah.
that was one of the cooler. I went to it twice.
Yeah,
That was one of the. I'm not a curler, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Sure.
This was fun.
Good deal. So, no, I've never watched an Army-Navy game.
Okay, I grew up in a Navy household. My father was in the Navy. My brother was in the Navy. So
Awesome.
so we watched
Thanks
that.
for their service. That's cool.
They met for the 124th time. Couple of interesting bits. We watch football now. Everyone wears a helmet. The first football helmet worn that people believe in a football game was the Army-Navy game in 1893.
Wow.
And good thing they had him wear a helmet because they were concerned for his health. Wore a helmet, ended up becoming an admiral.
Wow. Good for him. That's great.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. The Army-Navy game has never been played west of the Mississippi except for one time. One time it's been played west of the Mississippi. It's a pretty famous football stadium. Do you think you can name it?
Rose Bowl?
You got it. And they said they did that on purpose.
Just a guess.
Because of all the service members out there on the West Coast.
Sure.
On the West Coast. And Pasadena flew all the cadets
Very cool.
to Pasadena to attend the game.
That's awesome.
And then bringing...
We should have more great stories like that.
Right. Then a city came up and said, we'll get you guys here.
Yeah,
we'll get
that's
you guys here. Met for the 124th time. That is not the most, as far as a rivalry, most times the team has met. Sure. UND NDSU's at 116.
Wow.
And they're on the list.
I knew we were a lot, but...
South Dakota State's 118. The number one... Oh, no, you have East Coast ties a little bit. I believe these are both Philadelphia schools, or Pennsylvania schools. Lafayette and Lehigh, 159.
Wow. 115, but not for 159 years. There must be lots of playoff games in there.
I just saw a number of games.
Yeah, that's
159.
Awesome. 159.
And frankly, the Army Navy they've been playing since 1890. Have only missed 10 years. And
World War I, World War II.
World War II, no. Surprisingly, I thought the same thing. World War I, yes. And then something happened in the 1890s where
previous.
Neither one of they didn't play for like 6 years.
The plague or something. No doubt.
Right. Well, yeah. Weird stat. The Stanley Cup has been played every year that NHL has existed, except for 1 year, and it was because of the Spanish flu.
Oh.
I think it was Toronto said we're not going over there.
That's good.
No, Dana, thank you very much. Bunch of dumb sports facts.
Oh,
John, you made the sports nerd in me happy.
Yeah, no, that's those are good. Those are good facts. I wish I could come up with some. I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about sports because we spend our time thinking about too many other things as it is. So.
Well, and I will say this: I call them facts. They're facts according to Wikipedia. So if I'm wrong, it's the internet's fault.
I like going to sports games, but I like actually immersing myself and paying attention. so many
sure. No,
so
I get
many
it.
venues and so many things are more of a party these days that it's hard for me to get excited about going when I'm going to be with that group, because I know I'm not actually going to pay any attention to the game. I like actually watching games.
So as opposed to hanging out at their house for free, you spent $40 to sit next to them.
Exactly. That's right. Thanks,
All right.
John.
Dana, thank you very much.
Everybody have a good Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yes, you as well, to your family.
Appreciate it.
Whatever. All right, thank you very much, Dana Sande, City Council President, and thank you for watching this episode of the City Chatter podcast. You can watch all past episodes online at grandforksgov.com/podcast. And of course, winter is here, so slow down, drive safe, shovel your sidewalk, and be nice to each other this holiday season. Goodbye, everybody.